Um, so before we get started, we are going to have to shift things around a little bit. Il y a Claude qui va nous rejoindre bientôt aussi. And I hope that we can start off making a little bit introductions. Hi, Claude.
Hi,
Good to have you
Dedo.
around.
Hi, Sonia. Can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great.
Comment vas-tu, Claude?
Super, je suis content de vous voir tous les deux. Deux de mes personnes préférées. Mais j'exagère pas, hein, c'est pas pour le mic que je dis ça.
Écoute, c'est un plaisir.
Ouais.
Quand j'étais en train de préparer mes remarques, je me suis dit, mais il y a un an presque que j'étais au Togo avant le lancement du Palais de Lomé. Et
Voilà.
aujourd'hui, c'est devenu un grand projet ambitieux qui embrasse pas seulement le Togo et la région ouest africaine, mais qui fait des échos sur toute l'Afrique. C'est un plaisir de t'avoir avec nous, Sonia.
Merci. D'ailleurs, tu as le bonjour de Lewis. Donc, Lewis, tu te souviens, il était hyper content. Il m'a dit « Oh !» Donc, ouais, ça fait plaisir de se retrouver, de recréer ces liens ensemble.
Non, c'est un plaisir, c'est un plaisir. Je pense que Aza a un problème de connexion. She is calling in from Khartoum, where she has internet connectivity issues. And Pamela is calling in from Goma in DRC. Also is having a little bit of internet connectivity issues. But I guess we could start and have a conversation here, and hopefully they are able to join us.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Hopefully, our Pamela Tulizo in Goma and also Aza Sati in Nairobi will join us later. But first I wanted to excuse myself because I'm going to have to hop off in about 6 minutes. I'll come back on. Something quite unexpected came up, and I told Sonia and I told Dedo about it. But the reason we were really looking forward to having this discussion is because, well, in the 20 years that I've been a media entrepreneur focusing on Africa and the African diaspora, I noticed that a lot has happened in the last 5 years. And one of the things that I've noticed as a major change force is the power of women and the fire of women and the passion of women that are changing with respect to how the creative industries and the cultural projects that we all kind of know about in Africa are run. And we are really fortunate to have three very different perspectives from three industries that are not so different because they end up kind of coalescing around a certain nexus of creativity. But Sonia is going to speak to us about the, well, actually contemporary art world, but how that feeds into heritage and tradition in my home country, which is also Sonia's home country, Togo. Pamela Tulizo is going to tell us about why she chose photography as the medium to express herself as a Congolese woman living in Goma, which is a place in the world that has kind of these very negative connotations attached with it because of the reporting that is usually very biased, that Western media reporting is very biased and very simplistic and very, in some ways, quite opportunistic. So we're looking forward to having her connect and tell us about what she wants to do with her photography, because she has a really interesting background as a documentarian as well. And finally, Aza Sati, who's also an old friend of mine, who's what I call a repat, because she's one of those New Yorkers, former model in New York, who chose to go back to the continent to kind of throw her hat in the ring at kind of creating something really different from an African perspective. So once she's able to connect from Nairobi, we should have a really, really interesting discussion. And to get us started, Sonia, I'm going to be showing a few images of the Palais de Lomé that Dedo was mentioning earlier. But I know this, so I can ask you this question. Can you tell us a little bit about your own journey, how you were working in a big corporate conglomerate in France and working for big companies, some of the most well-known companies actually coming out of France, and you left that corporate world to actually launch this really interesting Palais de Lomé project. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to make such a shift in your career?
Well, the thing is that it was thank you, Dedo and the Segal, for inviting us to this talk. It was, I would say, and you remember a few years back when it was really, for me, I wanted to come back to do something connected to Africa. It was a huge change in life, but also an opportunity. I saw it as an opportunity because I was asked to do a feasibility study about how to transform this venue into something else. And to be honest with you, it's not very, I wouldn't say, it wasn't a career plan or a career path. It was more, I think I fell in love with the project. And to have the opportunity, it's very rare in life, it's very unique to have the opportunity to shape the project and to create something for the people in a place that has never had it before. So it was something that I would say I jumped into it because it was so unique that I just said, well, if I can give something, if I can contribute in a very small portion, in another small and humble portion, to transforming the way art and creativity are shown and expressed and exhibited in Togo, well, let's do it. That's how it all began. So it began in a room, and it was also a real, I would say, it was a bet to imagine how the room would be after it's being transformed. So it was a challenge, like, without knowing, to be honest with you, I didn't know how complicated it would be. I didn't know that it would be a real journey, as you said, twists and turns. I didn't know it would be so fascinating and fascinating to deal with. So really, it was an adventure.
Sonia, I want to thank you for kicking things off. I'm going to let you and Dedo just riff off of what you just said about passion and about discovery. And I'm going to jump back in a few minutes.
Okay.
I'll leave and I'll jump back in. Thank you so much.
See you then.
Merci Claude. Sonia, j'ai eu la chance de visiter le Palais de Lomé l'année dernière. Avec Claude, tout à l'heure, vous parliez de votre ambition et l'envie de quitter l'Europe, le confort et de rentrer au Togo et contribuer à l'espace culturel. Mais je suis un peu curieux de savoir quels sont les enjeux autour de cet espace de création au Togo et en Afrique de l'Ouest et comment est-ce que vous les avez contournés?
So, I would say that the challenges, we have many challenges, but one of the challenges, what I would like to outline is that in Africa, you have a huge, tremendous amount of creativity. So the creativity is already there. What lacks is the structure and the possibility to showcase it, to have opportunities to make people, the audience, discover it, and the artists express their talents. So the talents are there, but the challenge is to have the place to show them. So given that the talents were already there, so it's already a good point to have that to start with. And then the challenges you face are first, the infrastructure. The second is the human resources, because in the art, when I say art, it's more related to art management. I would say how to handle the venue. You don't have people that are trained, at least in Togo, you don't have so many people that are trained into it. So there's human resources, but this also is a challenge that can be solved. So it's something that you can solve. Each of the challenges we met were finally something that we could solve. So you have challenge of human resources, challenge of infrastructure, and how to transform the place. One of the challenges is also connected to mentality, because people at the beginning, they were aware of what we were doing. The artists and the artistic world, they knew what we were talking about. But the general audience, be it the administration or even the general audience, or even people in my neighborhood or family, they're all puzzled and surprised and asking, what is it? What is it for? What do you do? Oh, you want a venue to showcase art in a park? So what's the how does it work? So, you know, the challenges are here because they weren't exposed before to that kind of creativity. But the very first feedbacks were so positive that you could understand that he felt a need that wasn't expressed, but was still there. So
my next question is in twofold. One, how has that changed, that sort of perception or confusion around the place of art where you had to convince people from back when we were together in Lomé to now? And the second is referring to what you just talked about, how do we build infrastructure, human resource and financing that supports the place for culture and arts on the continent? What are some of the good examples that you see, since this is a future summit, that we could rely on to get inspiration on how funders or entrepreneurs or members of government who are here could find inspiration on how?
Well, that's a real good question. The first question is about the audience. You remember back then when we met, just just before the opening, and it was we had questions and issues about this, how will the audience react? And the feedback and the audience, they were first they came out of curiosity, saying, well, they wanted to know what the building was, how it was transformed, because here I must speak about the past of the building. It was the former governor's palace, so it was a place of exclusion. So how to transform a place of exclusion that was exclusive and that was the forbidden place, how do you open it to everyone, each and everyone? How do we make it a place of inclusion for everyone? So that was one of the first challenges, and the audience was when they knew that they could enter, and each time we told them, please come, you're welcome, it's your place. So once they, I would say, go through the threshold and see and saw what it was, they were very curious to discover the place and discover the exhibitions. And many asked questions about the way the artists think the world, their vision of the world. So this was very interesting to see the vision of the world through the eyes of the audience and the audiences, I should say, because we have so many different people from different backgrounds. You have either the Togolese, the younger generation don't understand, I would say, quite easily, or at least they're eager to know, to learn, to see. And you have also people from other backgrounds that are not at all in this background, and that were very surprised to see that and know that. So it's so it was one of the items. I'm surprised. So it was very. I'm sorry because I was supposed to have switched everything off. So sorry. Very good. So excuse me. And so yes. Oh, hello Pamela. Bonjour Pamela. So yes. And I would say that given that it was very new at the beginning, you have comments from be it the administration or other people. What they say at the beginning, they said, and many people ask this question is, well, in a continent with so many challenges, do you think art, creativity, biodiversity is something that is a priority? And I said, well, and this, it was something that was, many of them said so. And I said, of course, we have many other challenges to deal with. It's true, but it's not because you have many challenges to deal with that you don't enhance what you already have, because art, creativity also contributes to the development, economic development. So in another manner, but it also contributes. We need, of course, roads, infrastructure, but I consider the venue as an infrastructure to showcase art. So not only an infrastructure for tourists, but also for the local people themselves, so that they can go to a place where they discover other visions of the world, a venue where they can rest and relax and connect with nature and connect also with other minds, other mindsets, with mindsets of the artists, and connect also with their heritage. So it is compulsory. It's not. It's different from a road or whatever obvious economic infrastructure, but a cultural infrastructure is also a long-term investment. And I consider it also as a school for the children, because we have children from many schools coming. So it's different from the usual classroom, but it is a kind of classroom where you can go, where you can see nature, discover the arts and aspects. That's
Very much, Madame. You talked about art and culture and creativity being part of our identity. I want to come back to that question, but I wanted first to welcome Pamela, who is joining us from DRC. Après sa formation en journalisme par la Radio France Internationale, ton travail est centré sur l'exploration de l'espace de la femme dans tous ses milieux, y compris celui du travail. And your photography juxtaposes the image of traditional and contemporary women. You have made it your mission to break stereotypes around African women. Bienvenue, Pamela. Et j'ai une question pour commencer pour toi. Est-ce que tu peux nous parler de ton prix chez Christian Dior et par rapport à cette idée sur comment créer pour les populations locales et les identités locales en Afrique?
Coucou, ça va? Salut à tout le monde. Comme Dedo a dit, je m'appelle Pamela Tulizo, je suis photographe documentariste basée à Goma. Ça fait presque 4 ans que je suis photographe. Et en parlant du prix Christian Dior, c'était un concours qui le photographe et moi, j'ai postulé en tant que photographe congolaise, mais de provenance de l'école photographique d'Afrique du Sud, J'ai postulé comme tout le monde. Au début, je me je vais essayer. J'ai essayé. Je postulais avec un travail qui parlait bien évidemment de la femme, puisque mon travail est généralement orienté vers la recherche de l'identité de la société rapport à l'identité de la femme du Kivu, puisque moi-même je suis femme du Kivu, mais j'ai une autre identité que le monde m'a donnée, mais aussi les réseaux sociaux. Alors je me demandais
Je pense qu'on a un problème de connexion avec Pamela. Can you hear us, Pamela? Tu nous entends?
Oui, moi je vous écoute.
Oui, alors je te posais une question par rapport à l'identité et à créer pour des populations locales et des identités locales. Qu'en penses-tu? Aujourd'hui, dans le monde de l'art et de la culture, il y a un mouvement qui suggère une sorte de regard intérieur sur la production locale et la création locale pour faire partie aussi de la panoplie de ce qui est offert mondialement. Quelles sont tes analyses par rapport à ça au niveau de l'Afrique? Bon, peut-être que I'll come to you, Madame Lawson, first. To talk about this, you had started talking about identity being very, very important, and clearly the ambitious program that le Palais de Lomé is beyond just providing a space for art. I would love you if you could really break down a little bit what was Palais de Lomé long ago, and then what is it now, and where does that fit in this whole idea of identity?
Yes, so it's a good question because it's directly connected to identity, given that it was the symbol of colonization. It was the former governor's palace.
Yes.
Pamela, en fait, on vous entend un peu haché. Well, so I think I can, yes, I can teach and then we'll come back. It will be easier. So yes, it was the symbol of colonization because it was the former governor's palace. So first the German, and then the French, and it was then at the independence of Togo in 1960, the first presidency, and then the special guest house, the House of Special Guests, and then the house where the prime minister worked. So each time it was a place of power and exclusion. So having been abandoned for more than 20 years, gave it the opportunity to open a new chapter in its history. And this history is to make it a place open for each and everyone, a place of inclusion where you can see arts, visual arts, performing arts, theater, dance, music, sculpture, and design. So it's in West Africa, it's the first venue where you can have design exhibited that is not a showroom. So contemporary design. So it's and we wanted also to highlight the beauty of nature. And it's in a 26-acre park, so 11 hectares. And we are very lucky in the city to have such a park in the city center that will showcase the biodiversity and the richness of the landscapes of Togo. So it's all about being able to showcase the country in all its variety, be it in the content and exhibition of art exhibitions or in the park. So it's a place that really mixes art, biodiversity, design, and also food, discovery of culinary art, if we can say so. Food art, so to say.
No, that's beautiful. I remember vividly with fond memories how grand and ambitious it was, and the different exhibitions and expo that were there. And I wanted to sort of think a little bit more beyond the Palais de Lomé. The arts and culture are better consumed. And I wanted to understand a little bit more what are the different strategies and approaches to cross-border and Pan-Africanist popularization of the creations from the continent. How do you not make it only a Togolese thing? How do you set it up for export, not only in Africa, but to also be consumed worldwide?
Yes, worldwide. So from Africa to the world. We really think so. I was very happily surprised. It was very, I would say, even moving to have so many support from people from all over Africa. And you really think there's a trend and a wave of African wave supporting one another. And this is very nice because we need this support to move. So you had reactions, people in the audience, you have people coming from neighboring countries such as Ghana, Benin, Nigeria, and the Ken to support, but also support. I remember at the beginning, we received so many emails of support from people from, for instance, Botswana, Ethiopia, that are normally not so familiar with West Africa and Togolese landscape. So I think there's a natural wave in Africa of support and to create a creative community. So, and also what is very important is to be able to have bridges and links and partnerships with institutions from all over the continent. So this is also a trend. So from south to north, it's really a trend that will benefit from us all. So it will benefit to the artists, but also to institutions to be able to exchange work and make the word circulate. So it's all about also Pan-Africanism. But you know, Pan-Africanism is a word that has been used so often that sometimes people say, oh, it's an empty word. Well, for us, we deeply believe in Pan-Africanism as a way of circulation, exchange, and knowledge sharing as well. So we are working hard on that. And I think it's yes, it's really an opportunity to be able to because even if the countries and the parts of Africa encounter different challenges, we have so many things in common that sharing this knowledge and supporting one another is also a means to progress all together. So I really deeply believe in that. And I like the expression of Koyoko, the director of Rice Mocha. She speaks about radical solidarity. And it's all about solidarity. So let's be radical.
100%, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. It's unfortunate that Aza could not join, but her work really fits in this idea of film curation and facilitation, where she connects people to social issues through arts, and where she also develops content and finances film, television, and content by African women writers and directors. And with this idea of not only making our art and our culture and identities something that is consumed locally, but that's something that has a space on a global stage and market. Speaking of Aza not being able to join us because of connectivity issues, and where she is in Khartoum, I wanted to pivot a little bit, Sonia, to ask you around how do you reinvent yourself in this COVID era, where so many things are challenged? How has COVID affected you, and then how are you moving forward?
Well, at the beginning, we are all stopped in a movement. You know what was just a few months after the opening, to say, well, we're stopped in the movement but we had an increasing number of people visiting. So at the beginning, it was just, yes, we were very puzzled, but each time you have a hurdle, I would say it's an opportunity. So a challenge, let's transform this challenge into an opportunity. And during COVID time, what we enhanced, and we didn't plan to enhance it that much and so quickly, was the digital aspect. So because we noticed with the curator, one of the curators of the exhibitions, for instance, Free Borders, she noticed that many of the artists, even in Togo, they don't necessarily have websites or online presence in Instagram, be it Instagram, Twitter. So it was an opportunity also to show their work in another manner through Instagram, through videos, studio visits. So it was another opportunity to show for a broader audience what it was about. So really it was something very interesting, because once you see the digital world, you see all the possibilities you have connected to this digital world. So it's one of the aspects. And the second one, of course, I wouldn't speak here about practical measures and so on, because we all know it's about sanitary issues. The other issue connected to, I would say, COVID, is also a means to reflect upon community, what it means to be together. And I really think that an increasing need of being together, sharing. So it's also something that once people are, given the hard times we all experienced, many people and artists feel the need to gather, and they speak about that, be it physical or online, to be able to create even more associations, cooperations. So it's also a means for that. And one thing also is that, and I think it's in this time, the park is even more relevant, because of course it's a beautiful setting, a beautiful park to rest and connect with nature and enjoy and breathe. And breathing is very important, so to breathe, just that, to breathe and rest. But also I would say it's also an opportunity to discover the use of herbs and plants from Togo, because many people that are born and raised in Lomé, they ignore what's going in the villages, in the fields, so they're not always well aware of what we have in the forests, for instance. And they discover a treasure trove of nature, of plants that can be used to cure, to heal, and of course also for dye, so textile, traditional textile. So it's really an opportunity to connect and reconnect with the rest of the community, but also with nature. So this is COVID. So yes, it's true that we needed to adapt. And what is not very easy, for instance, is that before, when you had a group of of children in school, for instance, we didn't need to divide it in small groups. So yes, it means that we need to reorganize everything. What is not very easy for us as well is that we have storytellers and actors, and for them it's very challenging because they like, of course, I mean, a face is also is a tool of expression when you're an actor. So being masked and all these issues, it's quite different. So but what I like is that they're always able to shift and think in another manner. To say, oh, this, we can't do it like we did before, but we suggest this and this.
100%. I wanted to explore a little bit the space between technology and digital and art. During this period of the pandemic, we have seen how technology has become our way to connect and to build relationships and to continue to deliver. I remember really early on in Kenya, there was an exhibition in the dans les banlieues, in the yes. They did a virtual gallery, which was enhanced by virtual and augmented technology, which was sublime to see how using technology you can afford people who historically had not had access to art, because art is still a space for the elite and for the people who have the time. To see how with technology, culture and art are also becoming accessible to communities that historically have not had access to culture, because culture was luxury and was a little bit more expensive. How are you thinking about that, or how do you see the sector changing, not only around the Palais de Lomé, but also broadly?
Well, broadly, really, it's a huge opportunity, because you have, when you discuss, for instance, with students, they're exposed to the rest of the world. And this is fabulous, because they discover world from, and there's a huge curiosity to discover other parts of Africa. And what I like, it's maybe even stronger in the field of music, and in the field of music or film, is that they know all about Nollywood and the Afrobeat and all these sounds and these new sounds, some sounds coming from Kenya and being remixed, or from South Africa. So I think it's really something that this digital has allowed us to create links. And what we want to do, not only in Palais de Lomé, but what maybe we can improve and be better at, is also to make it more, to do the same thing for visual arts. Because for the time being, when you do, just let's do a poll and you ask people who are the most famous African artists. So you ask African people from Africa, who can you quote in visual arts? They can quote whoever you want in music, of course, music, movies, but visual arts, not yet. So to say, well, we need to have and create our own contemporary classics that will be classics in, let's say, 2 or 3 generations, will be very classical, to know this name of the. So I think what technology can help increase the knowledge of artists from other parts of the continent. What we are doing for the Palais, and what I like your example in Kenya about the suburb and outskirts of the city, what I think is very important is to make people discover and be exposed to art. So one of the exhibitions we have in Palais de Lomé, Lomé Plus exhibition, is really an interesting initiative for it's one of the artists invited for this exhibition is called Elon Vance. So Elon is a he's artivist. I don't know if the word exists in English, so it's an artivist, so activist, and he's very progressive in his way, and he's really progressive. So he did a video, series of videos of people living in the city and making the city. So not I would say the usual suspect of the art world. No, it's ordinary people that you can see on the street, people selling items on the streets, people walking in the markets. So they are the heroes of his clips, which means that we have planned to invite them inside the Palais so that they can see themselves in the clips. So inside the Palais, inside, this place that used to be the place of exclusion, but also we want to go to a market So imagine the huge, it's called the Grand Marché, so the huge market, and inside this market, we plan to do projection of the cliffs and so that people that are outside the Palais can come. So not only inside the walls of the Palais, but also outside, and they can be exposed. And we also had a digital app. So it's an app that allows you to discover the artwork of an artist called Palais. And Palais was an artist that put sculptures and many items in the city of Lomé. But the young generation, it is not very well known for the younger generation. So it offers the opportunity to go like a treasure trove inside the city, a treasure chase or treasure hunt. I don't know this word exactly in English. Chasse au trésor, so treasure hunt. So you go inside the city and you discover his works through the app. So it's a way to connect digital and physical interaction and to discover Lomé in another manner.
No, thank you very much, Sonia. There is certainly lots to unpack around digital art, but I wanted to also welcome again Claude. Bienvenue. Claude is the founder of True Africa. Earlier on with Sonia, we were talking about how do we popularize culture and arts in Africa and how do we put it in the global market. I wanted to throw a question really to you as well around what is your work and ambition with True Africa and some of the other work that you have been involved in the past.
Oh, thank you, Dedo, for the question. So I've been very consistent throughout my career in focusing on Black culture. So my former venture, Trace, which I started at 23, was focused on Black culture, but with a real kind of emphasis on hip hop and R&B and music, well, also with fashion and film. And so, you know, I sold that company in 2010. So for the past 10 years, I really have been spending a lot more time on the African continent, which is why I launched True Africa in 2015 as a way to champion young African voices. I felt that there were too many stories written about Africa by people who didn't know Africa. There are too many journalists coming to African cities for 2 or 3 days and writing stories for the BBC or Le Monde or Le Point or all these publications without really knowing what the culture, what the sensitivities, what the background of these creations were. And so True Africa has been really about identifying the latest innovators, the entrepreneurs, what we call the change makers, who are writing a new story about what the future of Africa looks like. And a lot of it is driven by technology. So in being part of the first to report on projects like the Palais de Lomé, to champion people like Aza, who hopefully will join us pretty soon, and to be able to profile amazingly talented women like Pamela, I found that a lot of the most interesting practitioners and leaders coming out of the new generation of the African continent were women. I really found that they were, in many cases, more fearless, more risk-taking, and actually a lot more astute in the way that they manage their projects by bringing in various partnerships without a lot of the ego that comes with being an African man, which is what I found in many. And so as we champion young African voices, we want to make it relevant to Africans on the continent, but also to Africans in the diaspora, as well as to non-Africans and non-Black people who happen to be interested in the future of Africa.
Thing that you talk about people who write about culture and about being African. I remember earlier on one of the un des points poignants this morning was with Michael Sheffer, who is the chairman of the board of the BMW Foundation. He said that one of the biggest problems of Africa is the difference between perception and reality that has continued to be really problematic, that influences how people look at Africa, how people interact with Africa, how people invest in Africa. And it's really good that you are placing your work at the center of this really ambitious work that is really difficult. Before we open up to questions, I wanted to first ask you also, I'm not sure if Aza won't be able to join us, but we still have to ask a few questions to Sonia. mostly around gender. But I will let you, Claude, take us from here, and I will collect questions and
Thank you, Dedo.
ask them.
Maybe, Claude, can you show
Thank
something?
you. Thank you. Yes, I wanted to share the slides,
Yes.
which is what we wanted to do now. So give me a few seconds to figure it out, because Hopin is a little bit complicated when it comes to that. So just be patient with me, yeah? So my screen share is really about this document here.
But yes, to
So I'm wondering if you're able to see it.
I don't personally, but maybe the others do.
I think it's going to come in a bit. Let's
Are you
see
able
if-
to see it?
Not yet.
Are you able to see it now? No?
No, not yet. Do you want to extend the screen? But in
Yeah, I'm gonna do it as a full screen, and hopefully as a full screen it'll work. And you let me know if it works, because I don't see you guys anymore. Can you see it now?
we can see it, but we can see you and we can hear you correctly. Oh, there you go.
Okay, you cannot see
Now it's
it.
coming.
Okay. It's coming. Okay, great.
You can
So
share
wonderful.
the screen.
So
You can double click on it, maximize
okay,
it.
so yeah, okay, great. Thank you,
Maximize
Dedo.
it
So
by double clicking, I think. No? Yes. If you double click,
yeah, I've maximized it, so I'm hoping you can see it now. And I wanted to so Aza is not able to join us, is she?
No, she won't be able to join us.
Okay, so let me just pass through quickly what Statement Films is. They're based in Nairobi, they're based in Cairo, New York, and Los Angeles. And really what they do is produce African stories, many of them led by women, female directors, female scriptwriters, and female actors. So yeah, so we can come back to that, but now I wanted to just maybe summarize what Statement Films does. They develop and finance films and content made by African women directors and creators, and they create an inclusive community and global sphere of influence around African women creatives. So we had a really wonderful conversation the other day. I think, Dedo, you were part of that as well. But maybe next time we can speak to Aza about why she's doing this now, because I feel like it's a wonderful project. So Sonia,
as well. Sorry, the name is beautiful. Statement Film. I like this name.
Yeah, I like it too. Yeah, it's great. So, and I like the iconography as well. It's beautiful on the bottom right. I don't know if you see it. So Sonia, I wanted you to immediately just kind of tell us about this building, which is the Palais de Lomé.
I spoke about it in few words. It was the former colonial place, so a place of exclusion, and we want it to be inclusive. So it's all about inclusivity and be able to share it and open it to the average Togolese and to each and everyone. So for us, it is the challenge and our objective to open it to our local audiences, but also to the rest of Africa and diasporas and the rest of the world. So you have people that come for, I think that each time the question we are asking ourselves is how to be relevant to our audiences, how to be relevant to the people that come because they are interested in art, culture, architecture, history. Maybe Claude, you can share the images. How can we be relevant to the people interested in biodiversity? So it's a venue that really mixes and combines art, contemporary art, living performances, but also biodiversity and food. So,
Did you already explain the
Yes,
history of the building from colonial times? Okay, wonderful. So why don't you tell us about this work, Sonia?
Sorry?
Why don't you tell us about this specific work that's showing now?
Oh, I don't see it, actually.
You don't see it? Is it not showing?
I have an empty slide with my name on it. I don't know is it okay?
Oh, okay. Okay, so there's a delay. There's a delay in the slides. Do you see something now?
Well, actually, I don't, but you
don't?
here.
I think there's a delay because I had
And Dedo,
shown.
do you see Dedo, or are you like?
I cannot see it. Claude, do you want to double click and expand?
Yeah, this is what I did. So, okay. So perhaps I can view full screen again.
Oh, Rachel is suggesting that the audience must click on it to maximize the presentation, not the presenter.
Okay.
Oh,
Thanks,
okay.
See the next slide, no? Maybe there's a message here.
So
on the right. Maybe it's because of the message. I'm seeing a message on the right of your screen, Claude. Maybe it's because of this. I don't know what it is.
yes.
It's a small message. Maybe if you close it, it will appear, no? Or not?
Yeah. Okay. I'll see what message I can close, but so
let me.
Is it coming up now?
Not yet.
It's not coming up. I'm surprised because you did see the slide with your name on it, and they were all part of the same presentation.
Yes, Claude, what you can do is to post it on the charter, and people can collect it from there. I have seen people, including Hervé Lizoire, who've been posting things on the charter. We have 7 minutes to go. We wanted to sort of also give a chance to people to ask a few questions, or you, Claude, to ask Madame Lawson if you have any questions.
Yeah, I think it's going to be complicated. Maybe I'll just post one. I'll post a screenshot in the chat to see, how you react to that, and then we can jump into questions because we're running out of time. Perfect. Is that okay, Sonia? Yeah. What about Pamela? Were you able to see any of her photography? Okay, so let me post one image of the Palais de Lomé with a specific work into the chat, and then I'm also going to post maybe one image from Pamela so that at least everybody can see it. Okay, so I'm just adding something now. I don't know if you're seeing it. Oh no. So Dedo, you're adding. Yeah, you added a link, right?
Yes, I added a link to the article on Pamela.
Okay. And this, can you see it now? The Palais de Lomé?
Yes, someone posted, Rachel posted the website of Palais de Lomé.
Okay, great. So I think that's good. If you can click on those links, that might be the best option right now. And I saw quite a few questions. So perhaps we can start with a question for Pamela. Pamela, tu es toujours avec nous?
I don't think so.
She's not with us anymore. And did we lose Sonia as well?
Am I sharing my screen?
Yes. I can see your screen.
Le Palais de Lomé?
Well, okay.
Yeah, I can see your screen now on Palais de Lomé.
Excellent.
That was
Yeah, it's great that you were able to do that.
Is this what you wanted me to do?
Yeah, I think that's great.
As you take questions?
I think that's great. Yeah, so there's something about creative arts in our cultures is the only identity that any country can have. This is Brian Sozzi who said that about 5 minutes ago. And he feels like having such spaces to provide a platform for artists to showcase their creatives is very key to promoting the country's tourism sector and love for the country. But this is the interesting part of the question. However, many African governments do not support this because they're still colonized in one way or the other. And interventions by philanthropies are the key to this development. Sonia, how do you feel about that statement? It's Brian Sozzi who feels that not many governments, unlike the government of Togo, actually support this.
Yes, I agree. It's very unique that the government was supporting. But at the same time, because you know, so many times you hear, even from the administration or the people from the Western countries, or so many times I heard before in the course of the project, well, in African countries, you know, African, I say Africans because they didn't quote only the specific example of Togo. In African countries, you have so many priorities. Why should art, creativity be the priority? So it's always, I think that's why maybe some governments don't dare or say, well, it's not our main priority, so let's do it later. And it might be one of the reasons. But I really think that once you have an example such as the police example, where it is relevant for the local population finds this very relevant. So not only the local population, but also people from abroad. So it makes it a touristic infrastructure and educational infrastructure as well. So this is also a means to say, well, when you invest in culture and creative industry, you have a return on investment. So it's not different when you consider it in the longer term. The kind of returns on investment you have are very, I would say, very important for the people who visit it, because it's a way to showcase your creative industry. It's also a way to transform the way people see, the way the audiences see the world. And being creative helps, no matter what kind of job you do, once you're exposed to creativity and think out of the box, it's always useful, no matter what kind of jobs you're doing. So I think it's also a means to answer that. And of course, from a touristic point of view, it brings people inside the country. So there's a whole ecosystem that benefits from having people coming from abroad.
Sonia, I like where you're going with this, and there's another kind of follow-up question from Maria Muhandire 5 minutes ago. She said, indigenous knowledge systems and resources repackaged and promoted physically and digitally. Hashtag, I really love this. So can you tell us a little bit about your strategies to promote indigenous knowledge systems and resources?
Yes, I think both physically and digitally first, because when you go inside the park, you discover it, and you have an app, you know, a QR code that indicates you what it's about. So when you see something that you're interested in and you want to know more about it, with the QR code, you know how it is used. So you know the names, the scientific names, but also the local names, because we think it's very important also to highlight the local languages. So you know the local names and also how it is used. So you can have it either physically or with the app. And it's also a means that we really hope we have a lot of ideas around it. And one of the ideas being to be able to do an app like a manga or a game, a manga, and a play where you can game with the local plants as well. So to make it cool, also when you're a teenage, you should think it's very cool also to see all this local knowledge. It's not only a knowledge for the older generation. So there are several means to do it, to make it, because we really think it's relevant today.
I have maybe one final question. Dedo, would you allow me one final question on, or do we? Okay, because I know we should be ending now, but I have one more question for you, Sonia. You see, the problem with these online sessions is when I do them with our brothers and sisters on the African continent, we often have connectivity issues, as we've experienced today. And how do you think that we can mitigate this digital divide where, you know, it's so difficult sometimes to connect to the internet to access this creativity and this culture? I'm not even talking about films or streaming. I'm just talking about just cultural content. What do you think, Sonia, we should be doing to be able to deal with the technology side of things and connectivity?
Besides that, Sonia, I'm interested also knowing what are some of the things that people can help you with. What else do you need besides? Claude is asking around the bridging the divide with technology, but I wanted to go also further and ask, what are your needs in this moment, and how can people join in your movement?
Well, that's a good thing. I think divide in technology the technology will improve and has improved throughout the years. It's also a matter of time. It might be a matter of time, and because most of the African governments know the importance of technology and there's investment in technology, so hopefully it will improve the quality of connectivity. Because we know that now everyone has access to technology and wants technology. So no matter, it comes across all the categories of the society, they're interested in it. So hopefully it will improve. And I'm sure that technology will contribute to linking the African countries and people together. So it's really important. And yes, what you say, I like what you say, Dedo, because what we really want now is to improve the partnerships. And I think it was a question of Brian, so, the question about the role of the government. So the Congolese government has been very helpful in financing the project, but it was very clear to us, and since the inception of the project, that we need to have also private support, and private support in sponsorship, in philanthropy, so to help us continue the project that offers an urban plan, a park inside the city. And so it's very, I think it's one of the issues to help us continue with that is to increase partnerships with other institutions and individuals, but also philanthropy sponsorship. So it's part of one of the main challenges and issues we have to be able to do better.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sonia, for all your insight and your patience and your dedication and all this hard work. As a Togolese citizen, I'm very proud of the work you've been doing with the Palais de Lomé. I talk about it everywhere I go, all over the world. And I hope that in the future, we will have many other cultural institutions of that caliber. Thank you, Dedo, for organizing this event. And I can't wait
to both
to
of you for your
participate
time.
in some of the other
It was
sessions.
a pleasure.
Thank
you
you
very much.
Thank you very much. As usual, it was a pleasure to see you again, both of you, and thank you for the audience for your questions.
Thank you very much for sharing your heart, your love, and your work with the rest of the continent. I've seen questions asking, how can we replicate this? What are the lessons? I'm pretty sure so many people are going to follow up. Thank you very much, Sonia, Lawson, and Claude.
Thank you very much, Dedo. Bye-bye.